Hey everybody, it's been a little while since I've updated you on the progress on the race car. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. You can see I got the seat out, but the primary thing I wanted to share with you is this oil pressure and oil temperature gauge install. I want to show you the senders that I have. I found one video that does a pretty good job of showing the install of an oil pressure sender. But I think there are some things that I did a little bit differently, and I want to share with you what I did. I will also share the products that I used. The gauges up here are VDO oil pressure and oil temperature gauges. You can see the pressure gauge is a 5-bar pressure gauge. That's what the sender requires. And then the oil temperature gauge up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. These are both VDO. You can see down at the bottom VDO. Electronic gauges. I made the mistake actually of getting a pressure gauge that actually required oil pressure to be run to it, but electronic gauges. So I'll show you the wiring, but first I want to take you back here and show you the senders. I also have an AccuSump install in progress. I'll have another video on that later once that's complete. In the 987 Cayman and Boxster as well, I would assume, there is, let me turn the camera sideways, hopefully this will work. Right down here, this is on the passenger side, you can see, let me grab a little pointer, but you can see the new sender down in there. Right in this location, that is my oil pressure sender. Again, I'll put a link to the part that I used. The reason I put the pressure sender over here is because these Caymans come with this. They come with a default pressure sensor, but the problem with this pressure sensor is it's just on off. It really only triggers when the pressure drops too low. I don't know exactly what the pressure threshold is, but it will send a message on the dash, a text message that says your oil pressure is low. What I wanted to do is, again, add that gauge in there so that I could see the actual pressure. So I removed this from that location. This was actually pretty easy to remove. It's a pretty large socket. This is a 24 millimeter deep socket that I used, but I was able to reach down in there, get a hold of this. It's not torqued very tight. It's just into the aluminum head. So once you break it loose, you can reach down there with your fingers and unscrew it. There is one electrical connection on the top of it. Obviously, you need to take that electrical connection off before you get the socket on there and unscrew it. When you remove it, there is a crush washer on there. Make sure the crush washer comes off with the sender. And then the new sender also has a crush washer on it, and just make sure that the crush washer stays on the new sender when you install it. So anyway, this electrical connection is the same size as the electrical connection on the new sender that I got. And the new sender then has a second electrical connection for the actual pressure range. This connection and the connection that's like this on the new sender is just sort of that low pressure warning light. I used a pressure sender from a 997. It's actually a 996 part number. I'll list that, but it's really easy. It has the same, I believe these are M14 threads. It has the same thread, so it just fits exactly in the same location that this was in. And like I said, it's got two electrical connections. Don't know if we're going to be able to see that in here, but I used, let's see if I can turn you around this way. And yeah, you can see that rubber boot, that was the existing connection that went on the old sender. And then there's a new connection there coming in for the variable pressure. You can see I put the wiring in a in a little, whatever you call this thing. I'll show you on the inside where I ran that. I don't know that you could always run it where I did, but I'll show you more details on that in just a minute. I want to show you the other sender. The other sender, so these heads on the engine are exact, they're the same. They're just mirror images of one another. So on the passenger side, that pressure sender is on the front of the head. And over here on the driver's side, on the rear side of the head, is the exact same threaded location. That location has a plug in it. This plug is pretty easy to access. You can see it pretty well down in there, but what I had to do is remove the cover for the air filter and then remove the air filter itself. I was able to get down in there. It's not a straight shot. I had to use a little wobble extension to get in there, but it's really straightforward. It's a 6mm hex head Allen socket. The only thing I would say is just make sure that you're pushing that socket all the way into the plug. You don't want to strip it out in there. This is just an aluminum plug, so I think that would strip out pretty easily if you didn't have that thing seated in there all the way. Again, there is a crush washer on this plug, and there's a crush washer on the sender that I installed. Let me grab my stool because the car's up on the lift and walk over here and show you this sender. Again, I'll link the part number for what I used. This was a VDO sender, and again, it was threaded exactly what I needed for this location in here. So it was really straightforward. This one is let's see if we can see it. I don't know if we're going to be able to see it. It's a little bit difficult. I think actually my wiring might be in the way. You can see that red wire down in there. That's down to the sender. The sender is actually right here, right in this location. May be able to just make it out down there. Not quite sure. Let me just swing this around, give you different angles. Sorry about all the movement. There, I think you might be able to see it. So that's the temperature sender. And again, that runs to the gauge on the dash. That one is actually pretty straightforward. The sender itself looks a lot like this one. This was just the low pressure warning. It looks a lot like this. It has a 19mm socket on it, and it has one electrical terminal. The electrical terminal it comes off at an angle, a 90-degree angle. That 90-degree angle kind of prevents you from getting a socket over. So I just very gently, needle nose pliers, make sure I didn't break the sender itself. I bent this terminal at like a 45-degree angle so that I could get a socket on there and insert the sender, get the sender in the engine. For both of these senders, they're very easy to thread on. There's a little bit of oil in the threads that you're screwing into, so it's well lubricated. It's real easy to just screw them on by hand. And then they don't need to be very tight. 30 foot-pounds maybe, that may be even too much. I just did them kind of good and tight. And because you're able to thread them on by hand, you really only need, I don't know, half a turn on them, maybe a full turn. Pretty straightforward. You don't have to fight with a socket and wobbles and extensions and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, the temperature sender on the driver's side, pretty straightforward. Get a socket on it, get some wobbles. Same thing with getting this plug off. Just get this on it with some wobbles. On the passenger side, sorry, with the temperature sender, as I said, I was able to get the 24 millimeter socket on the existing sender, but the new sender, it's much bigger than this. It's threaded the same, but it has a much bigger body on it to measure the pressure. In order to install that, again, threaded on by hand most of the way, and then I was able to get an extension down in there with a crow's foot 19 millimeter and tighten it down. Took a couple of turns, a little bit of doing, but it really wasn't all that difficult at all. All right, so in both cases here, I had to run a wire to the senders. Again, on the pressure sender, I used the existing factory connection for the low pressure warning. But then I ran a single wire to the pressure sender and then a different single wire to the temperature sender. I ran those wires in here. These two red wires right here. Those holes that they go into are normally where your parking brake cable goes. This is a race car, parking brake is gone, everything to do with the parking brake is gone. So that actually is a pretty nice, this one goes in and crosses over to that side, which is kind of nice. This one goes in and crosses over to this side, which is kind of nice. I would say just be careful wherever you install these wires, especially to get to this pressure sender on the passenger side. You may need to go in front of the belt and pulleys on the motor, even on the driver's side, depending on where you punch through the firewall and get your wire in there. Just be careful, make sure those wires are secured and out of the way and not going to get tied up in the belt at all. Okay, so the wires, you can see there's a lot of wires in progress here for various things, but these two wires, I've got them going up to the front, to the dash right here, and ultimately to these gauges. I have a bus bar down here. I have power and ground, makes it really easy. So run power to the gauges and then ground both of the gauges and then run the sensor wire up to the gauges. So yeah, these things work really well. Had the car running. At idle, it jumps up to about 5 bar, maybe 4 bar, something like that. And then the temperature takes a little while to come up as well. After a few minutes after idling, it'll drop down to about 2.5 bar. And I'm sure it would drop even further as that oil temperature came up even higher. But that's my experience with this install. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything. If you have any questions, just post it in the chat down at the bottom and I'll be happy to answer them. I'm pretty excited about this. I think this is going to be a really useful tool as I'm on track to kind of monitor, especially the pressure. You can see there's a little blue light there. That's part of my AccuSump install. I'll explain that once I get that installed. But anyway, hope everything is going well. Hopefully this helps some folks. I know that, like I said, I think this is really valuable information, especially as you're on track. Thanks.